RM Sotheby's is the world's largest collector car auction house by total sales. They are the preeminent market maker of high-quality collector cars and collections, regardless of size or complexity. By working in partnership with the Sotheby's team and its network of 80 offices in 40 countries, RM Sotheby's has established the largest client network of any collector car auction house in the world. Join the RM Sotheby's family by connecting with one of their car specialists at rmsotheby's.com or contact me directly at gstanley@rmsotheby's.com. LLC TLC is here to save you money on all of your vehicle purchases. LLC TLC will permanently register your classic cars in Montana to avoid any annual renewal fees. As your registered agent, they will handle everything for you so you never have to step foot in Montana. And as a listener of this podcast, LLC TLC is offering 30% off your entire package. Simply go to llctlc.com/classic or mention this podcast when you contact LLC TLC directly. All right, welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. Hey, it's Greg Stanley. If you're watching on YouTube, you see that I have my Pebble Beach Monterey hat on from a couple years ago. So this is all about the incredible cars coming to RM Sotheby's Monterey sale. Now, this is pretty unique because I tried to name this a certain way. There's supercars, but then there's mega cars that aren't really supercars, but they're kind of a step beyond. So this episode is called the Super Mega Cars coming to RM Sotheby's Monterey sale. Now, for next week, I have another Monterey episode coming up, but this one's going to be across all the auction houses, all the major events, and I'm going to try to pick the 10 cars you have to see when you're in Monterey. For a few of these, I will not have the specific car because it's being unveiled at Monterey, but I'll give you a heads up as far as where you need to go and keep an eye out for some incredible automobiles coming to California. Now, for this episode, I am going to list these from most expensive to least expensive, but I am not covering every single car, the top 15 from RM Sotheby's, because there's so many Ferraris. I did want to get a little variety in there, so I do kind of stop. Even though there might be a Bugatti that's worth less than a Ferrari, I might not mention all the Ferraris just to kind of keep it somewhat a little bit more than Ferrari-centric. As you will see here in a moment, there will be a lot of Ferraris. Okay, just for your review, Wednesday, August the 14th is the preview at RM Sotheby's, 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. Thursday, preview from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m., and then the auction kicks off at 5:30. There's quite a collection, private collection, no reserve, Thursday night on August the 15th. Friday the 16th, again, preview from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. Auction kicks off at 5 p.m. And Saturday is the same as well. So great schedule coming up in Monterey. Now, our first car is the big car of this entire auction. It's a 1960 Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase California Spider. Estimate is $16 to $18 million. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful. This is my dream car. If I had all the money in the world, I would have one of these. Now, I don't know if I would have the short wheelbase or the long wheelbase. I've never sat in one, but the folks that have, with the seat not being able to be adjusted whatsoever, it gets kind of tight in there. So while the short wheelbase is the most beautiful one, I would probably prefer the long wheelbase. Now, this is the finest, most important 250 GT short wheelbase California Spider available. It was the very first one ever built, the car that Ferrari chose to showcase at the 1960 Geneva Motor Show. So very, very cool. Equipped from the factory with a competition-specified engine, covered headlights, very important, and a factory removable hardtop. Now, it is in its original colors, long-term ownership, never offered publicly for sale. Now, I do want to give you a little history as far as these cars and this one in particular. Now, Ferrari achieved tremendous things with the 250 GT in the early 1950s, finding remarkable success in sports car competition with the long wheelbase Tour de France and 250 TR models. As was frequently the case in this era, the push to do even better came from abroad, specifically from John von Neumann. You'll hear the name again here in a little bit. The California-based importer who had become a regular distributor for Ferrari sales on the West Coast. Von Neumann proposed the idea for a true race and road car, an open Ferrari that could be driven to the track, raced in, and then driven home. Official Ferrari importer Luigi Chinetti supported the idea, and soon the California Spider appeared with open coachwork designed and built by the legendary Sergio Scaglietti. Sorry about that. On the Tour de France, Berlinetta's chassis, like his New York contemporary Max Hoffman, von Neumann had an eye for what American sportsmen wanted. He was one, after all, and the early California Spiders made a splash in GT competition, taking a class win at Sebring in 1959 and finishing 5th overall at Le Mans just a few months later. So stunningly beautiful car. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you'll know that I don't always do the catalog description, but R.M. Sotheby's has some tremendous writers, and I feel like it's a disservice not to take advantage of such wonderful writing skills as they describe these cars. So for a few of these, I am going to give a little bit more of an overview based on the historic significance of the car, as well as what a great job our writers do. All right, let's see. Next is another Ferrari, as you can imagine, a 1955 Ferrari 410 Sports Spider. Now this one, the estimate is in excess of $15 million. Now, if you're watching online, this is a stunningly beautiful red Ferrari with a huge hood scoop. It's red with a white and blue stripe down the center. Absolutely stunning. Unique one-off sports racing special, the prototype for the iconic 410 Sports Scuderia Ferrari works car. So this was the prototype. Driven by the legendary Carroll Shelby, and there's some incredible period photographs here, to overall victory at the 1956 Palm Springs Road races. The last racing Ferrari acquired by the luminary Tony Paravano. He was a big 1950 Southern California sports racer. A tailor-made example with exquisite one-off spider coach work by the masterful Sergio Scaglietti. It retains original matching numbers engine. Only 4 connoisseur owners in the last 53 years, including a prior 37 period of single-owner care in one of the foremost Ferrari collections in America. It is just one of the most beautiful cars. I can't wait to see this car in person in Monterey. If you've never been to R.M. Sotheby's auction, you should definitely check it out because it is one of the best concourse show fields you'll ever see. It just happens to be for an auction. It's just amazing the cars that they get. All right, next is another Ferrari, again red. Now this one has the number 211 on the side. It looks very much like our last one. This is a 1957 Ferrari 625 TRC Spider. Estimate on this one is $9 to $11 million. One of only 2 examples factory equipped with the larger 2.5 liter engine, the ultimate version of the early Testarossas. Widely considered one of the most beautiful body designs ever created, originally owned and driven in competition by the highly influential Ferrari distributor and racing legend John von Neumann. See, I told you we would talk about him again. Achieved 21 top 3 finishes, including 10 overall or class victories among over 40 period races. A true icon of the California racing scene with a famous original livery, currently fitted with a roaring 3-liter Colombo short block V12 engine, accompanied by its original matching numbers 625 specification engine. So that's really important. You can actually go out and enjoy this car. Well-known ownership history, including a 30-year period of fastidious single-owner care. Documented with period photos, copies of letters, and excerpts from Cavallino magazine, including a feature article by respected motoring author Michael Lynch. An impossibly rare, exquisitely shaped, and powerfully specified touchstone of sports cars' most glorious epoch. Wow, very, very cool. One of our car specialists is driving it in these pictures. Actually, a couple of them. Wait a second. I should have been out there in California when they filmed this sucker. This would have been a lot of fun to drive around. All right, next is a car you will not test drive, a 2002 Ferrari Formula One race car. Now, the estimate on this one's $8 to $10 million. One of only approximately 12 World Championship winning Ferrari chassis with at least 1 win and at least 2 podium finishes by Michael Schumacher. One of only approximately 30 Ferrari Formula One chassis with a Michael Schumacher victory. Achieved victory at the 2002 Australian Grand Prix and 3rd at the 2002 Malaysian Grand Prix. 100% record of podium finishes during its competition career. Qualified in pole position for the Malaysian Grand Prix, scoring Ferrari's milestone 150th Formula One pole position. One of the most beautiful designs of modern Formula One, a true sculptural masterpiece, a pinnacle example of a car that defined an era Michael Schumacher's World Championship reign at Ferrari and the cars he drove to victory are positioned to become the most important automotive pieces of a generation. I can't argue with that. I think the Lewis Hamilton, because he is active and he, is right up there, if not beyond Michael Schumacher, probably command a little bit more. But Schumacher's the guy I followed for so many years, and it's so cool to see his race cars in person. All right, next we do have another Ferrari, and if you're watching online, it looks a lot like our first Ferrari. That was, I forgot the number, but it was like $15-18 million. This one's a bargain, $6 to $7 million. Now this one is a little bit different. This is a 1960 Ferrari 400 Super America short wheelbase cabriolet. The third of 7 short wheelbase 400 Super America cabriolets, fully restored to Concours standards by U.S.-based Ferrari specialist Classic Coach and Greg Jones. I've actually judged with Greg Jones. How about that? Now, if you've never met Greg, you'll know Greg when you see him because most of the time he has a parrot on his shoulder. He travels everywhere with his little parrot. Super sweet little bird. If you don't see the parrot on his shoulder, check out to see if he has a bulge around his waist. Sometimes it's hanging on his belt underneath his shirt. He's a really funny guy with a really cool little bird. All right, now this one is formerly of the Oscar Davis collection, seldom shown since its most recent restoration, an exciting Concours opportunity. Now, it is an interesting color. Let's see, it is in a striking factory correct one-off combination. I'm not going to get this correct. In the US, you would say dark metallic green over dark red, but in Italian, it is verde bottiglia over rosso. So very, very cool, striking colors. All right, next we're staying Italian, but we're moving away from the Ferraris. Now, this is one I do want to get a little bit more background on because it is such an important car. Now, if you go back a number of episodes, you'll know that I picked the top 3 cars of all time. It was a McLaren F1, a Ferrari 250 GTO, and this car, an Alfa Romeo 8C. So this is a 1934 Alfa Romeo 8C 2300 Lungo Spider. Now, the estimate on this one is $4.5 to $6 million. Now, this one is by Eagle Coachworks, a highly respectable, pure example of the legendary 2.3-liter Alfa. Strikingly handsome coachwork fitted prior to delivery for London dealer Jack Barclay, never fully restored but always well kept, winner of numerous concourse awards, accompanied by a fascinating history file, including a copy of the original Buff logbook. Not quite sure what that means. Just stunning. It almost looks like a dark, dark blue, and it's just a stunning open-top cabriolet. Spider, sorry, not a cabriolet. All right, a little bit of information on the Alfa Romeo. Under the Alfa Romeo's 8C 2300 long snout was tucked an engine comprised of 2 4-cylinder blocks end-to-end with twin overhead camshafts and hemispherical combustion chambers. That's right, it has a Hemi. The 10 main bearing crankshaft was split in the middle with a pair of gears at its heart that drove the camshafts, a supercharger, oil and water pumps, and the generator, a marvelous symphony of complication that would delight the enthusiasts of Swiss watches. When properly set up, it was seamless in operation. An 8C 2300 was a superb driver's machine as witnessed by its impressive roster of victories in the great races of the world during the 1930s, including 4 consecutive victories at Le Mans from 1931 to 1934. Like all great cars, it made its own legend and in its own time. A handful of 2.3s that survived the competition-oriented use of their original owners have largely slipped into the hands of museums and other permanent collections. Offered here is one of the few exceptions to that rule, a car which still remains very much as its first private owner enjoyed it, due largely to one of the foremost enthusiasts and historians of the marque who took superb care of it for the better part of a lifetime. Really, really beautiful car. If you're watching online, Jake O'Gorman, one of our car specialists, is wheeling it pretty good. Looks like he's having a great time. I know he absolutely loved driving this incredible car. Now, there's also a 2900, and those are the ones that really bring the crazy, insane money. All right, next we're going to a Ferrari again, but this time it's a modern Ferrari, 1995 Ferrari F50. Now, when these came out, I did not care for the way they looked. I saw one going very fast down Georgia Highway 400 South, Georgia 400 South. and I just did not care for it. But I must say it has aged tremendously well. Love the wheels. I'm loving the front of it. One of the rare cars that actually got better with age. I would also put the EB110 Bugatti in that bucket as well. So the estimate on this one is $4.5 to $5 million. The 47th of 349 numbered examples built, so very few of these. One of 55 original U.S. delivery F50s. Outstanding overall condition, just under 9,000 miles at the time of cataloging. Platinum winner at Cavallino Classic in 2023. Ferrari Classic K certified, accompanied by its original books. Yeah, this is really, really cool. I know the 288 GTO is actually rare. I want to say there were 249 of those. And it's interesting because there are a lot more F40s. I want to say around 1,900 F40s. And yet, all three are about the same price. But obviously, the F40's name is probably the biggest in the enthusiast world because of its performance and the rawness of it. But I would imagine the F50 is probably more enjoyable to drive. And it is absolutely stunning. Okay, now it's time for both of us to learn something new. This next car is a 1932 Delage D8S Roadster. Now, this estimate is $4 to $6 million. I bring this up because I am not that familiar with these cars at all. I'm going to make a guess that you are not either. Now, there probably is one or two of you that's all about it. If so, please let me know. This is a beautiful, big 1930s car, Roadster. And it looks like it could be a mob boss car. The convertible top is very, very low. Almost looks like it has a chopped top. Very, very cool. The Delage, during the classic era, France's premier automobile, offering a combination of superlative performance, exquisite engineering, and finely wrought beauty that was difficult to surpass. This was never more true when referring to the company's 8-cylinder models, of which the inarguably finest was the exclusive D8S of the early 1930s. Based upon a shortened chassis to optimize maneuverability and reduce weight, the D8 boasts a competition-bred 4-liter 8-cylinder engine that produced 118 brake horsepower at 3,800 RPM, some 20 more than the standard D8. Tweaked for maximum durability at speed, the S-tuned engine utilized shorter valve springs to resist breakage at higher RPM ranges, as well as a Delage-only aircraft-inspired system in which warm engine oil was routed through the intake system rather than water or coolant in order to prevent performance loss due to carburetor icing. In many senses, the D8S was France's Bentley. It was a swift automobile engineered for maximum performance, yet it had a sensuous finesse to its design that made it as elegant as it was powerful. It was one of the ultimate chassis of its period. Only 99 examples were produced, almost all of them fitted with superlative custom coachwork, although in typical fashion of the time, some were more magnificent than others. Yeah, this is a stunning, absolutely stunning, beautiful car. All right, next, believe it or not, we are sticking with the French, but quite a different car. This is a 2023 Bugatti Chiron Super Sport. Now, the estimate is $3.75 to $4.25 million. The beating heart of the Bugatti Chiron is an engine of almost unfathomable power. The 16-cylinder, 8-liter quad turbocharged W16 engine, so named because of the alignment of the four banks of the 4 cylinders each, first found fame in the company's groundbreaking Veyron. The earliest examples of the landmark hypercar coaxed just shy of 1,000 horsepower from the powertrain, and over time the engine was honed for further iterations of the model. When the Chiron arrived in 2016, the heavily revised engine produced a staggering 1,500 horsepower, some 296 horsepower more than the most powerful Veyron. The Chiron Supersport took things a step further, drawing from the phenomenal engine and advanced aerodynamics to become the fastest Bugatti ever made. The stage was set for Bugatti to reveal its special edition Supersport in 2019, by which point the Chiron had been produced for 3 years. The French marque continued to realize the performance potential of its hypercar, pushing boundaries beyond what many thought possible. Indeed, in September of 2019, Bugatti announced that a near-production version of a highly tuned Chiron had broken the 300-mile-per-hour barrier, a feat never before achieved by any road-going production car. The prototype topped out at 304.773 miles per hour with Bugatti test driver and former Le Mans winner Andy Wallace taking the wheel at Volkswagen's test track in Germany. This thing is pretty brutal. Pretty cool car. All right, next we're staying in Europe, but we're getting a lot smaller and a lot older. This is a 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder by Wendler. Now, the estimate on this one, ironically, is about the same, $3.75 to $4.25 million. I think that is the same as the Bugatti. Now, Porsche's first purpose-built competition model, the 550 Spyder, boasted a simple yet effective tubular chassis, torsion bar setup, and a patent 1,500 cubic centimeter 4-cam engine, soon to be known as the Carrera. With lightweight aluminum bodywork, the 550 tipped the scales at an utterly featherweight 550 kilograms, a little over 1,200 pounds. It was remarkably swift and nimble for its size and rapidly became the car to beat in the under 1,500cc class of most contemporary sports car events. By the end of 1954, class victories had been achieved in no lesser events than Le Mans, the Mille Miglia, and the Carrera Panamericana, not to mention numerous successes in national-level events on both sides of the Atlantic. It was one of the great all-conquering sports cars of all time and cemented its legend early. Between 1953 and 1955, 90 examples of the Wendler-bodied 550 Spyder customer cars were produced. Almost all of these cars enjoyed ownership by enthusiasts and teams that are still well remembered today. Not least among these was John von Neumann. I think that's the third time we mentioned him. As important a name in the Porsche world in the United States as could possibly be envisioned. So this car was actually made for him to race. Yeah, I think it's like the third time we brought him up. That's kind of nuts. Let's see if there's any more. All right, next is a 1966 Shelby 427 SC Cobra. This might be as close to American-made as we're going to get here, even though technically most of it was made in England. All right, the estimate on this one is $2.75 to $3.25 million. It was classic Carroll Shelby, a delightfully mad idea made even madder. Take the already ferocious 289 Cobra and quote-unquote upgrade it with a 427-inch cubic inch V8. Though Shelby intended to race the 427 Cobra, by the time FIA inspectors arrived at his facility, only 51 of the cars had been completed, and so he was adamantly denied their homologation approval. Shelby consequently painted and completed 29 competition chassis with fully trimmed interiors and shrewdly marketed them as the 427 S/C, or semi-competition, the fastest road-going car ever built, while retaining the oil cooler, riveted hood scoop, flared fenders, side exhaust, dual lightweight batteries, 42-gallon fuel tank, and external fuel filler to full competition models. Just as the Jaguar XK-SS was a thinly veiled D-type race car, so too was the 427 SC Cobra, a barely disguised road-going variant of the 427 competition cars. They were insanely brutally quick, faster than many full-bore race cars of the period, and can be rightfully considered the ultimate street Cobra. Today, these special cars remain extremely sought-after stalwarts of the vintage racing communities in both Europe and America. Now, this is CSX 3036, offered for the first time in 25 years, of greatly enjoyed residence within one of America's finest collections of mid-century American sports and racing cars. CSX 3036 is among the most distinguished SC Cobras, remaining notably original with SAAC documented history since new, including prior ownership by Shelby Mark historian Ken Eber. CSX 3036 is a true prize worthy of all serious collectors wishing to secure a significant and eminently usable Cobra for their own stable. All right, we have 3 more to go. Now, this one I was not going to include initially, but then as I read about it, I'm like, you know what? I probably should include this one. It's a 1993 Ferrari 512 TR. Nothing super special there, but it is a Spyder that was built by Pininfarina. Now, the estimate on this one is $2.7 to $3.5 million. One of only 2 512 TR conversions commissioned from Pininfarina by Ferrari, intended for the royal family of Brunei. Those Brunei folks, they really did a lot of weird customizations from Bentleys and Rolls Royces and Ferraris. This one actually looks really, really nice. The sole example finished in this stunning triple blue color combination, powered by its matching numbers 4.9 liter flat 12 engine and 5-speed gearbox. Now, it is right-hand drive, indicated fewer than 360 miles at the time of cataloging. Recently treated to $65,000 of cosmetic recommissioning by the 8-time Pebble Beach Concours winning team at RM Auto Restoration, refinished in its original color and fitted with a new convertible top. You know, if you're going to have a TR, a 512 TR, this would be the one to have. One of 2 ever made, one of 1 in great colors. I love blue. That's the color I want. This thing is pretty darn cool. All right, next, I do have a hypercar. Today's hypercar, 2014 McLaren P1. Now, I picked this one, honestly, for clicks, because this thing is nuts. It's like green on green on green, and I'm going to have it as the cover slide for this episode on YouTube. Anyways, super, super cool car. Estimates $1.95 to $2.35 million. Now, this is chassis number 2, the earliest P1 offered to the public. I did not know that until I pulled it up. Upgraded to full exposed carbon fiber body by McLaren Special Operations. Features over $109,000 in options. Comprehensive maintenance records through McLaren retailers. Received a comprehensive $135,320 service in August of 2023, including new HDA, I don't know what that is, with clutch assembly. Capable of 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.7 seconds. 217 miles per hour top speed. Now, just if you're on YouTube, just look at this thing. This thing is really insane color combination here. The interior was really nuts. So, very, very cool car. If you like attention, this is the car for you. All right, and the last car we're going to talk about is another Ferrari, and ironically, it is green. So this is the 1991 Ferrari F40, also known as the Minty 40. Estimate is $1.9 to $2.5 million. Now, stay tuned here because I have some fun behind-the-scenes stuff when it comes to judging one of these cars. So the Minty 40 is a spectacular, utterly unique interpretation of the iconic F40. Finished in homage to chassis 3505 GT, the Verde Paldido Ferrari 250 GTO, famously built for Sterling Moss. You can Google that. It is the same exact color. European market example retaining its matching numbers, engine, and gearbox. Reproduced in exacting scale formed by amalgam, accompanied by an example of this limited production model. A truly one-of-a-kind supercar, sure to cause a sensation wherever it goes. So I bring up the color in Ferrari judging for a reason here. It's because when I judged down in Cavallino last year, there was a dark blue Ferrari in the parking lot. And while you're having cocktails ahead of time, I was just kind of asking, well, what do you do? Because all F40s were red, and as well as the 288 GTOs, they all came red. And the question was, well, how do you score that? Because exterior paint is 4 points. And some people were saying, well, it's the wrong color. They never had it in that color. You need to take off the full 4 points. Well, then you're out of a platinum, right out of the gate just because you changed color. The rest of the car could be absolutely perfect. Now, this is only for 288 GTOs as well as F40s because all the other Ferraris, Ferrari would allow you to pick whatever color you wanted. It's just for those 2 models, they were all a version of red. And so, if it was an F50 and it was this color, there wouldn't be any points taken off as long as there was documentation that it was, it was paint to sample, to use a Porsche term, from the factory from when it was initially built. If you could prove it was this color, then that's fine. So I guess some people are like, well, no, you should take 2 points off because that way if everything else on the car is perfect, you can still go to a Platino. Some people are like, you need to take 4 points off, but the response was, well, that's as if it has no paint. It obviously does have paint. Anyways, pretty interesting conversation with the Ferrari judges about F40s and 288 GTOs that are not the original color. Anywho. All right, so that is it for this episode of the Collector Car Podcast. As always, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to all of you next week.